that has recently been introduced into Multi-Week Planner, aka MWP. So this was generated as a standalone Ruby script a couple of weeks ago. It's documented on the wiki, where I describe how you can take a mission file, feed it into this script, and it will show you the mission plotted against the terrain. You can also define a clearance margin, so the blue line represents a clearance above the green terrain, and then you can get the tool to generate a new mission for you. That's the orange line here. A couple of points about the way this is generated. First of all, it is incredibly conservative for a number of reasons. The first being it's actually quite difficult to model the dynamic behavior of the aircraft, and in any case that will vary considerably between a multi-rotor that can ascend and descend at will and a fixed wing aircraft that has fixed climb and dive rates. The second thing to take into consideration is we have a limited number of points in INAV. We have 60 mission waypoints, so there's a limit to where we can place these, or how many we can place, and there's a limit both to the number of points we can get through the Bing Maps terrain elevation API, both in the number of points and also in their precision, both horizontally and vertically. So it's very much the case that this tool is advisory, and if you wish to really follow the terrain very closely, you're going to have to go through some manual steps to bring your actual altitudes down towards the plotted elevation or elevation clearance, and you may have to add additional waypoints as well, for example where you've got a hill. And I'm just going to show you a somewhat extreme example of that, and this was actually discussed this morning in the RC Group's discussion board. So here's a rather extreme case. In fact, it's actually the scenario we're going to go and plan in MWP in a minute. But the orange line here is my mission. Here's my fairly extreme peak of a hill, and this is my actually 40-meter clearance line. If I just took the points where the waypoint meets the 40-meter line, then I wouldn't clear the hill. So we actually have to find the highest point between two waypoints to actually be sure that we're going to clear the elevation. So that kind of explains how it works to some degree, and why it's not as precise as some people might like. So without much further ado, let's go and have a look at a real life example. So here we are, Multi-Week Planner. It's in my standard usual flying location where I live most of the time, in Hampshire in the south of England. It's a small field. It's very, very flat. It's not really worth trying to do an example here. So we're going to go to a much more interesting location. So here's a mission I prepared earlier, and it's in the southwest of the Isle of Man, and the flight is just over 10 kilometers, so it's an aeroplane, a fixed wing flight rather than a multi-rotor flight. And one thing you don't really get from the satellite view is just how hilly this is and how much variation there is in the terrain. So first thing I'm going to do is choose a more appropriate mapping product, and in this case it's Untitled Map, and there is a variant prepared by an organisation called Thunder Forest, for which you need an API key, which is much easier to use because the free version has API required plastered across it, which somewhat dilutes its utility. So here we are, here's the terrain data, and from this we can see that there's some pretty steep escarpments in our mission. So we're starting here at a place called the Slock. We're flying up this ridge. So we're 200 metres at our start point at the car park here, flying up the ridge, up the incredibly steep, you'll know if you've ever walked it, Cronkney Lay, in English, the Hill of the Morning Watch. Then we're going to descend, it gets a little less steep, and then we're going to come up over the hill fort on South Barrule. We're now up at about 450 metres, and then we're going to descend down along the side of the hills, back with a return to home from here, back to the car park. So first of all, let's go and have a look at the mission in the mission editor, and my default elevation is 20 meters, and that ain't going to work here. So that was the right mouse button click, and in the context menu you'll see there's this new item here called terrain analysis. So if I click on terrain analysis, it pops up this new dialog with a nominal home position, a margin elevation, and whether I want to replace the altitudes in my mission. So the nominal home is set by the configuration file for the plot elevation script, and as I've got that set to my normal field in Hampshire, England, which is 450 miles southeast or so of where I am, MWP makes a bit of a bad job and just sticks it in the middle of the map. So I need to move that here, and if I try and run this analysis without putting the home position close to waypoint 1, then it's going to fail. So I've clicked apply, and it tells me an error. My waypoint is 2.5 kilometers from home, and the sanity limit I've set in that configuration file, documented in the wiki, is 500 meters. So get rid of that. Here's the location, and as I drag this icon across the map, you'll see the location is moving to wherever the icon is. And there we are, I'm now in the car park. So first thing I'm going to do is just run the analysis and show you what the terrain actually looks like. Let's click apply. There we are, it's very hilly. So this is the very steep escarpment. There's a little dip, Cronkney Lay, slightly gentle, at least by Manx standards, descent, and then the ascent up South Barrule, pretty steep descent, bit of elevation, and then the RTH back to the car park. And it's quite obvious that my default 20 meters certainly won't cut it at all. I'm well underground. The thing I'm going to do next is just say replace mission and get MWP's sort of best guess, first guess on how I might actually want to fly this. So I'm going to click apply again, and there we are. And this is the bit that I showed you before, around the top of Cronkney Lay. So there's lots of things that I could change here. So waypoint 2, 4, 7, 8, 9, 12, 14 are things that I'd want to change. I now don't want MWP to automatically change the mission for me, so I'm going to negate the replace mission tab. Let's just get that GNU plot back. And one of the nice things about GNU plot is it shows me the coordinates in this bottom bar here, or actually you can configure GNU plot as to where you want that bar. And I'm interested in the Y value, and I can see here for waypoint 2, currently it's got the mission up at about 315 meters, and I could be quite easily around 250, 260 meters quite safely. So if I go back here, then that is 120. That's what I showed you in GNU plot is the elevation above mean sea level. The values here are the elevation above waypoint 1, and the differential I wanted was 60 meters. So I'm going to set this to 60, so I'm just inline editing that value. I've set it to 60, and I can now go back to here and rerun the analysis, and waypoint 2 now looks much better. The next one I'd probably change is waypoint 4. Currently I'm up at 420 meters. I could come down another, I don't know, 20-30 meters. So I'm just going to take waypoint 4. I'm going to take it down to 200 because that's a nice round number and I'm not really that bothered. So let's plot that again. Yeah, and that's looking quite nice. Okay, I'm still above, at all points I'm above the 40 meters, but I'm quite smoothly now following the elevation. And I'm just going to go through and do the same for all these other points, and I know what I want these values to be, so you know the drill. Find out where it is on the mission, find out where it is in the clearance, find the delta, apply the delta in the in the editor. So here we are, waypoint 7. Big change here. I'm going to take this down to 120 meters. Waypoint 8 I'm going to take down to 90 meters. Waypoint 9 I'm going to take down to 110 meters. Waypoint 12 I'm going to take down to 130 meters. Waypoint 14, again, big jump. I'm going to take that down to 50 meters. And let's see what that looks like. There we are, that looks pretty good. There's actually one other thing I would like to do. Really, there's quite a big jump between 11 and 12, and I could either move 12 out, or I could add a new waypoint in a bit nearer to waypoint 11, and make that maybe just a smidgen lower than waypoint 12, which is currently at 130 meters. So I'm going to do that. The easiest way is just to enable editing, click on the map, move that to where I want it, which is going to be about there, I think, and then it's put it at the very end of the mission. I need to drag it up so it's between 11 and 12 in the mission editor. So there we are. That's my new waypoint here, and I said I was going to take it to that just below what was the previous waypoint 12, so I'm going to take it down to 120 meters, and let's see what that does to it. Yeah, that's great. I've overcooked it a bit actually. It's probably gone a bit too far, so let's just drag it back, have another go. Yeah, that's pretty perfect actually. I suspect I'm going to tax my aeroplane pretty hard diving it down the south slope of South Barula, but I think for the pretty extreme variations in terrain that we've got here, we've done a reasonable job quite quickly of planning a mission that is going to be reasonably close to the terrain. Obviously a waypoint between 9 and 10 could smooth that out, as long as your plane could then make the climb angle up there, and likewise we could put another waypoint in here as well. So there you are, that's the MWP's new terrain analysis tool. No, it is never, well, never say never, but it's not in the short term going to be really clever and do it perfectly out of the box. There is going to be some manual intervention for the reasons I described earlier, so the precision of the data, the fact that we don't really know how the model's going to behave, and it'll depend on the type of model. So I think actually this is quite a useful advance, because up till now we've had no tool to help us predict whether we were clearing the ground by a sensible amount. So first of all, thanks very much for watching. I hope you find this tool useful. If you have any problems with it, or you have any comments, please enter them in the video comments below. Join the topic on RC groups, or if there's a bug, please raise an issue on GitHub, and enjoy using MWP and flying iNav. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye.